Try to imagine this: outside, artillery falls like rain, the ground shudders with every. And inside the base, the signal that a new day has begun. Sometimes isn't the sun at all, but the scrape of metal against metal, the lid of a ration can being pried open. Khe Sanh, 1968. People talk a lot about B-52s, about the days under siege, about maps and operations. But I want to tell a smaller story, so small it's easy to miss: a meal. More precisely, the C-ration. Canned food. Battlefield rations. The thing that keeps people alive. And also the thing that teaches them what weariness really means, in the most human way. At Khe Sanh, the road by ground often wasn't a road you could travel anymore. It became a road you could barely survive. When resupply depended too much on weather and risk, hot food, the kind of proper meal, turned into a luxury. Some accounts suggest that, on average, troops at the base received 2 C-rations a day, and only occasionally got extras like fruit juice, sweets, hot soup, or fresh fruit. On its own, that might sound normal. But in a siege, it's different. Because you're not just eating. You're counting. Counting how many cans you have left. Counting the days. Counting whether the next resupply will make it in or not. See what I mean? Sometimes your survival is in the hands of clouds and fog. And I'll be honest, war doesn't always kill you with a single bullet. Sometimes it kills you through repetition. The same artillery, again and again. The same damp, muddy smell. The same slow, gnawing hunger. And again. The same ration can, identical to yesterday's. You bite fast, you swallow fast, not because it tastes good, but because if you don't eat, you'll get weak. And when you're weak, you're easier to kill. A lot of veterans say they survived on C-rations, warming them with a tiny heat tab. That detail, a little heat tab, sounds so small. But it gives me chills. Because in the middle of a massive battlefield, your hope is sometimes just a tiny flame, barely enough to warm something in your hands. And do you know what the hardest part about C-rations really was? It wasn't just that you got sick of them. It was the feeling that you were eating something that didn't belong to normal life. You ate in a damp bunker. Mud stuck to your gloves, to your sleeves. Smoke mixed with the smell of wet earth. Outside, another round of artillery could hit at any moment. And that can of food in front of you was both a lifeline and a reminder: this is one more day you have to endure. But people, even in the worst conditions, still find ways to hold on to life. Under siege, soldiers often traded: whoever had coffee, whoever had sugar, whoever had something to make it a little less unbearable. Not to make it tasty, but to make the meal just slightly different, so your brain could feel that today wasn't completely the same as yesterday. Some places even tell stories about homemade creations from canned rations, mixing whatever they had, adding hot sauce, giving the result joking names to lighten the weight of it all, because when you're trapped, even a small laugh can be a kind of medicine. I love that, even at the very bottom of exhaustion, people still create a tiny piece of normal life to cling to. And then there are stories that feel both heartbreaking and strangely warm. One memory says that during a resupply run, a flight crew managed to stash a few gallons of ice cream alongside the ammunition and C-rations, but by the time the troops got to it, the ice cream had completely melted, mixed with smoke and debris. It was inedible. And yet people still remember it. Because they understood someone had tried to bring something normal into a place that was no longer normal. It felt like a message: we haven't forgotten you. At this point, I want to share an honest personal thought. War films often pull our attention toward the explosions, the black smoke, the tactics. But if you want to understand how war consumes a human being, look at the small things: meals, sleep, soaked boots, an empty stomach, a dry mouth. C-rations were one of those small things. They weren't heroic. But they were the heartbeat of survival. And C-rations were something else, too: a clock for hope. At Khe Sanh, every time you heard an aircraft overhead, it wasn't only about bombs or bullets. It was also the question, is there resupply? Is there more water? Is there anything hot? Because in a siege, you count your days by how many cans you have left, and you count your faith by whether the next shipment makes it in or not. One veteran once wrote that C-Rations were the last resort for them. If there were A-rations or B-rations, hot meals, they'd choose those immediately. But during the siege, those options weren't available, and the C-ration allotment was reduced to 2 meals a day, sometimes even less. Hearing that, I think, there are days when you don't need a speech to keep going. You just need something warm in your mouth. But the battlefield doesn't grant people that kind of comfort. And then war reveals its most frightening side. It doesn't only strike the body, it grinds down the mind. Try eating the same kind of canned food long enough, and you'll understand how a person can lose it over things that seem so small. But at Khe Sanh, people fought that in a very human way, improvising, trading, finding any way to make today feel even slightly different from yesterday. I've always felt that war movies push us to focus on the explosions. But if you want to understand how war consumes a person, look at the small things. At Khe Sanh in 1968, a can of C-Rations wasn't just food. It was a reminder, I'm still alive today. And maybe tomorrow too. If you want me to keep telling these everyday battlefield stories, coffee, water, sleep inside a bunker, damp mud, skin disease, and the things that wear soldiers down day after day, comment next episode below. And if this series is worth your time, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video.